news roundup and information overload.
All right, news roundup and information overload hour. Thank you for being with us. 800-941-SEAN if you want to be a part of the program. So the Republicans, we had Chip Roy and Matt Gaetz on the program yesterday. I thought actually it was a very worthwhile discussion. People like Chip Roy, Byron Donalds, who will join us in a second, were working hard behind the scenes to get together, what I thought was actually a pretty responsible, fair deal to just, fund the government till October 31st, an 8% cut, but it wouldn't touch the military, or other programs that matter to so many different people. And anyway, I just thought it was a pretty good deal. Didn't work out yesterday, so they're trying to put together another one. And anyway, here to update us on where we are with all this is Byron Donalds, congressman from the great state of Florida. How are you, sir?
Doing good, Sean. Good to be with you.
All right, let's talk about what was going on behind the scenes yesterday and in the lead up to yesterday.
Well, let me take a step back. In the lead up to yesterday, where we were was essentially that there was no agreement on top line spending numbers that the members of the Republican conference could agree to. There was no agreement to that. And what I understood and could see pretty clearly, and so could Chip, so could Scott, and a handful of other people, was that if we didn't address the government shutdown and address the politics around the government shutdown, we would have members in our conference who are, they're on the more moderate side of our conference. They represent districts that are Biden districts. They're deep blue districts that Republicans hold. They would feel the pressure and do whatever, they felt was necessary in their eyes to avoid a government shutdown altogether.
So, by the way, this was a negotiation between the House Freedom Caucus and the more moderate, quote, mainstream caucus. It would impose 8% spending cut on federal agencies. It would temporarily fund the government through October 31st. It would not include any cuts to national defense, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and amounts designated to disaster relief, nor, I assume, would it have touched Social Security and Medicare.
No, it would have left all those, as you just stated, and we would have put in our border security package to secure the southern border. We have members who just said he didn't want to vote to a CR. So at that point, it's taken us back to figuring out top-line spending numbers. I was in the room with colleagues from all over the Republican conference for probably 6 or 7 hours yesterday, hammering through a lot of the details and some of the issues that members are having to try to get to a top-line spending number so we can pass our appropriation bills. Sean, there is something else that's going on. We do have members who are talking with Democrats about signing a clean CR. Now, a clean CR would be a full continuation of Nancy Pelosi's spending and a full continuation of Nancy Pelosi's policies. And if that is passed off the floor of the House of Representatives, then there's no ability to go after the weaponization of DOJ, the woke stuff in our military, or secure our southern border.
Okay, that's a big deal on a lot of fronts, and you're right, that is definitely taking place. I know for a fact it's taking place. If that happens, I think the Republican caucus needs to reevaluate. I mean, one of the biggest problems you guys have is you only have a 4-seat majority, and you even have missing members currently, so you don't even have your full majority. And, I said this to both Matt Gaetz and to Chip Roy yesterday. I said, look, you guys are going to succeed together or you're going to fail together, and there's not going to be any middle ground where one group is successful and the other group's not. Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right about that. If Biden and Pelosi get a clean CR, in my view, this will be a complete failure of the Republican majority, because our job was to come up here and to fight for this country and to do the tactical and smart things to reverse course here on Capitol Hill. And if they get their way on a continuing resolution, which is very likely, Sean, very likely, if they get their way, then we would have squandered the majority that the American people gave us, in my view.
All right, so what's the answer, and what is the status of negotiations with these moderate Republicans, which, frankly, I think hurt all their other Republican colleagues if they were to do something that stupid, but I can see it happening as you can.
Where we are right now is there are members who, They're very strong on their position about federal spending and reforms to the government. It's getting them in the room with the same moderate members who would sign off on they call it a discharge petition. It would actually go around the leadership and go straight to the floor for a vote. And it's getting those two members in the room to sit down and say, listen, we either succeed or we fail together. Here's the strategy. Here are the numbers. What say you? And at that point, Sean, this is what democracy looks like. This is what a representative republic looks like. Members have to sit down, look each other in the eye, and make a decision. I'm willing to be in the room with them as long as it takes to make that decision, Sean.
Let's talk a little bit. I mean, it seems to have gotten personal. I know Matt Gaetz went after you on the House floor yesterday. And I just wanted to give you a chance to respond in fairness. And I think ultimately you guys probably agree on more issues than you disagree on. Am I wrong in that assumption?
We agree on where we're trying to get to. We just disagreed on tactics. And I think that Matt made a tactical error here. I mean, look, it sounds good to say that you want to fight against Jack Smith and all that stuff, and I know that's what Matt wants to do, but the tactics, in my view, he used to do that does not actually change anything. It actually keeps the status quo in place. Because in a government shutdown, Jack Smith continues. He continues going after Donald Trump. He continues the weaponization of our Department of Justice. Nothing changes there. And I will also add, if we were in a shutdown or getting close to one, we do have members who will cut a deal with the Democrats. That does not help us secure our border. That does not help us cut spending. That does not help us do anything that the American people want to see have happen in their government. So I just think that we had a tactical difference. I think he was wrong, but we are where we are.
All right. So the tactical difference, where do things stay today? And how many of these moderate Republicans would partner with Democrats, which to me is just a slap in the face to all of their caucus members?
I think that number is somewhere around maybe 5, maybe 6 members. And look,
and that would be Ken Buck, for example, Colorado, right?
No, I don't think Ken Buck will be with that. But we have members who they're in New York, they're in California, they're in some really tough districts, Sean, where there's some of these members, there are more Democrats in their district than Republicans. Like they're underwater, 50,000 votes, just Republican and Democrat. We have members who represent areas of the country like this. So they're looking at the equation and saying, listen, I just can't have a government shutdown. It's going to really hurt me in terms of getting reelected to keep the majority. But that's their political view. My view is let's be strategic. Let's make sure we use the right tactics up here so we can actually get to the weaponization of our government and cut this federal spending because we are bloated and we're out of control.
So to have a stopgap measure that, a CR that would temporarily fund the government to October 31st, a compromise bill that would impose 8% spending cuts on federal agencies, but protect Social Security, Medicare, national defense, the Department of Veterans Affairs, etc., and those monies dedicated for disaster relief. It sounds like the best deal that everybody's going to get to. Maybe I'm just giving my objective opinion for the short term. Now, I would have preferred that Republicans followed through on the issue of passing 12 appropriations bills, but that didn't happen, did it?
No, it didn't. And listen, we have so many other issues up here about why that didn't happen. Sean, look, I've been in the room for all these conversations about how to get to top line spending numbers. Frankly, the last 24 hours has probably been the most productive it's been over the last 4 months to get there. I mean, look, this is the thing.
Well, why does everybody wait till the last minute? With all due respect, I mean, I've been talking about this since June and July and August. And frankly, I think Republicans made a mistake going away for the month of August.
Totally agree with you. I was willing to stay. I know Chip was willing to stay. And there are members up here who are willing to do this work. But I mean, listen, at the end of the day, I think some of this does fall in the hands of the speaker. If he didn't, he's got to decide how he wants the work to go. But we just never made the progress necessary. I was very clear with my colleagues and with the leadership about what needed to occur. Did it fall on deaf ears? Maybe. But that's what we are where we are right now, Sean. And so I'm telling you, members are locked in. We're trying to get to an agreement so we can get the appropriation bills done. And in my view, still have still discuss some of the serious issues in front of us, which is our border, which is the department, which is also the Department of Justice, and the fact that our military is not prepared the way it needs to be because of the social engineering by the radical left.
Now, you're also dealing with other forces against you, and that would be Mitch McConnell and the U.S. Senate. Mitch McConnell is perfectly fine leaving spending levels where they are. You know, we just passed the $33 trillion mark in terms of the national debt. On top of that, that's a massive amount of debt. And, he's pressuring, and you'd have to go to conference at some point, assuming that the House does pass a bill. And then we got this looming shutdown, and I could see Republicans now being blamed for that unless they go with the clean CR. And yet that would be, probably enough to spark a motion to vacate against Speaker McCarthy. How's that going to play out?
It plays out terribly all the way around. And let me be clear. I've been saying this to my members in the conference is that, guys, if we're not successful in the House, all of the leverage in this town will shift to the Senate, and Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell will cut another bad deal. That's what they will do. They will cut another bad deal. It'll come back to the House, and then this whole thing is over. And that's just the way it's going to be, because next year, if the presidential election is already started, it's going to dominate everything. Nobody's going to want to do anything in this town next year because everybody's going to be running for re-election and trying to, for me, making sure Donald Trump becomes the next president of the United States. That's what's going to dominate this town once we get past the spending fight. So we have to be smart, do the right thing, and win the ground that is available to us right now.
I kind of agree, but it doesn't sound like it's doable. You got, one side on the right, including, my friends in the Freedom Caucus that I tend to support the most. And then you've got these moderates that are willing to do deals with Democrats and actually burn the Republican House down with it.
Sean, I will tell you that a lot of these members on both sides, they've been in the room with me, with Chip, with Scott Perry, with Tom Emmer, the House Whip, and we've been going through in big detail, strong details to try to get somewhere. The last 24 hours has been very productive. So I wouldn't say it's not a done deal yet. We got still work to do today, some work to do tomorrow. I think it's possible. The biggest thing I would ask for your listeners is, well, number one, we all need prayer. We need God's wisdom and discernment. That's number one. But number two is that just hold the line with us. There is a way to get this done where we can actually have a strong position come out of the House, because then we got to go negotiate with the Senate. That's the second step after we get our business done here.
McConnell's already, put a stake in the ground saying that he is against what the House is proposing. He said a shutdown or a possible shutdown is a loser for Republicans, and GOP senators are alarmed at the fact that you guys actually want to stand by your promise to reduce massive government spending, which is frustrating in and of its own self.
Well, first of all, to Mitch and the boys, they're the ones that cut that bad omnibus deal with Nancy Pelosi when she was already a lame duck speaker. So they put us in this pinch if we're going to be 100% honest. I'm not interested in listening to what the Senate has to say right now, because one of the reasons why voters in our country are so furious with this town is because the Senate Republicans have left the battlefield every single time. They've not stood for strong policy. They have not used every tool to make sure that they get this country on the right track fiscally, or that we have the right policies that control and restrain our government. They've not done any of this stuff. So I'm not interested in listening to the Senate. I'm interested in making sure that the House does the right thing by the American people. And when it's time to negotiate with the Senate, then we'll have that conversation with them directly.
Well, I love the stance you're taking, and I'd like to think I just wish all of the conservatives could at least unite. And, you had some serious movement by the more moderate Republicans in the House. I thought that would have been a good first step, and I think it scares the hell out of Republican senators that you guys may actually be successful, because that's going to put the pressure right where it belongs, on them.
I agree, and I'm going to tell you, Sean, look, I got members from all over the country. They all have different viewpoints. People have really sat down and really tried to come together to find a solution. There's been a lot of members on both sides of the Republican conference, whether they're moderate or conservative, who've really been a part of this. They want to do the right thing. They've been talking in good faith. It's been very, very good. I think we have an ability to get somewhere, but we're just going to work and see how it plays out.
All right, Byron Donalds, thank you so much You're a Freedom Caucus member too, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that's the part of the caucus that I identify with the most. I think you guys can do the best job. I wish you the best here. I wish I could tell you I'm confident that these other more liberal members, rhinos, are not going to go with the Democrats, but I can't confidently say that. And that would be, I think, just a disaster. I think that'll anger a lot of voters, but I just want the blame to be placed on the people that deserve it. Appreciate your hard work. Thank you for being with us. Congressman Byron Donalds, Florida. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, son.